Welcome to Tribe Talks with ArcherPoint Retail. Today, our retail experts, Kayla Magnan and Thomas Nielsen, are going to talk about self-managed kiosks and the benefits they bring to retailers in the form of touchless options and more efficiently leveraging staff. So let's go ahead and get started. Kayla, over to you.
Suzanne, these topics are definitely getting more interesting. My favorite ones are the ones we get to talk very creatively on, and definitely the ones talking about advancements in technology for retail and hospitality. So hi everyone, welcome again to another session taking a dive into another consumer behavior trend that is quickly becoming a consumer behavior norm. And we touched a little 2 weeks ago on how many of the times these shopping patterns are actually influenced by external factors that actually start those trends we see turning into that consumer behavior. So with me, my sidekick host, Thomas. We all know I'm a retailer's favorite shopper, but sometimes I can be a complicated one. And although I did confess I am an impulsive buyer, which means retailers can easily sway me into their loyalty programs, I can become impatient in long lines and then blame other reasons for that inconvenience. And I'm sure I'm not alone in these confessions. So Thomas, how do retailers provide impulsive yet personal, and in today's requirements, humanless interactions that are quick and convenient, but again, also personal?
Hi everyone, Suzanne and Kayla, thank you again for having me on this webinar. Well, Kayla, with all that information, as a retailer, I would simply just provide customers like you a self-service kiosk. Actually, some say the adoption of contactless payments, it's what we discussed in our last webinar, will boost the continued growth of these self-service devices. The way you can serve yourself, whether it's ordering breakfast from your local coffee shop, returning or exchanging a sweater, sunglasses at a retailer because of a size of or color reason, or for any other reason for that matter. Or even shop at the retailer in this contactless world we expect now, and use self-service machines near the fitting room to eliminate close human interactions, but provide the ability to shop as we used to, meaning where we could touch and feel and try the product on.
And I know I've used some of these self-serve kiosks, but it definitely seems like technology I'd be interested in using at more locations, and not all the time, just maybe for those times I'm in a hurry. I know exactly what I want, where it is in the store, and I don't need help or want any interruption. Or even to your in-store self-service kiosk by that fitting room. I've seen videos of people trying on one item, but using AI technology with a mirror, for example, to see what it would look like in different colors or suggest accessories and pairing items. I know I would love to try on just one item, but be able to see how it looks in a variety of colors or pair it with bags and shoes from the same collection with just that one item try on.
Yeah, exactly, Kayla. And I think it's fair to say we've all been there at busy times. When we are already out and just need a quick to-go option, for example, let's say you're on the way to soccer practice with the kids, and this is a reality. So the day took its own direction, and you're probably already later than you planned. And from the back seat, you hear it ripped. And now, a few turns away from soccer practice, you need to find a pair of shorts fast. The nearest retail outlet is one you've never been to. But when you walk in, you're greeted by big, bright signs leading you to the kiosk that ask you what you're shopping for. And you can choose by different categories. So you're choosing child, shorts, size, and color. And bam, there you're showing how many they have in stock, at what price, and where you can find it in the store. And regarding your mirror AI technology, Kayla, imagine you're on your lunch break, walking through the nearby shopping center, and the shoe store has an interactive walk-by display. And when you walk by the different shoes, it mirrors your feet walking as you were wearing those specific shoes.
What a way to completely change the customer experience, definitely in that frantic on the way to soccer example, or with being able to eliminate close interaction in the fitting room process or all interaction in that walk by technology, which has me now thinking, how can VR and AR come back into the discussion? Where I remember for Mother's Day, 1-800-Flowers actually promoted their newly augmented reality for flower arrangements. They reported an increase in sales because people could basically realistically see what these flowers were going to look like in the dining room, on the office table, kitchen counter, wherever, just making their purchase decision more visible. And while these are all really creative, some are definitely more advanced, but they're all experimenting with self-service features. And I think the interesting point here is that all of these examples we've mentioned so far have been in a variety of retail businesses. And to me, that's interesting because when I hear self-service kiosk, I'm thinking immediately restaurant or, as you referenced, local coffee shop, but I'm definitely thinking more hospitality space than retail environment with these self-service kiosks.
And you're not alone there either. But let me ask you a quick question. Have you ever been using an ATM machine
Yeah,
or a good old vending machine?
more often than I should.
Yeah, and I'm sure if I ask you, what about an airport self-check-in, a digital directory in a mall or an airport or corporate office building?
Yeah, I've used all those.
Yeah, I thought so. Those are all self-service kiosks. Not only has there been a huge adoption in the F&B industry, but we have also seen, or we also been exposed to these self-serving interactions in other areas for many years. And as we mentioned, these devices are now been creatively used in other industries and have enhanced features. For instance, many of these kiosks accept contactless payments. And I think it's fair to say that we have all noticed the long gone are the times where the vending machines were only candy and bottled water dispensers. They are now provided a wide variety of items: fresh food, cupcakes, caviar, technology accessories, even cars, to mention a few categories.
And Thomas, I know you were at NRF this past January. I'm not sure how much exploration of the other expo levels, but I clearly remember walking by this one booth. I even snapped a picture because just as you mentioned, it had one vending machine, but a mix of items within it, cold and perishable, large and bulky, again, all in one machine. So for example, there were quick snack food options like microwavable meals, but also things like bags of rice, cases of water and soda, even spices, napkins, and other essentials. It was aimed more towards community places like campuses, apartment complexes, hotels, and lobbies, but any area that wanted to provide these items to consumers 24 hours a day without a physical human staff attendant. And just thinking on some of the other places that have actually used these self-services, but I'm having a hard time remembering because it was just a natural experience and such a smooth process. As you mentioned, airports, my recent travel experience, navigating through the airport, ticketing, baggage check-in, the directories, of course, the restaurants. That's where I've probably been exposed to more of those common self-service
Exactly.
models. For example, that device at table, we see menus, pictures, descriptions, and then you can even select the item and make your order adjustments or your preferences all the way to making the payment from that device sitting at the table.
Right, and that device at the table is a self-service kiosk, the use of which can and is likely to be further expanded. Retailers that provide this service allow customers to feel that they can take their time. There's no pressure to rush to choose one item over another. Studies shows that customers will make a higher quantity and quality purchases that customers will be happy with when they're utilizing these devices.
I mean, I know I'm more happy with purchases that have no influence on my own. Who else isn't happy with those kinds of decisions? Now, since I am the creative creature I am, I definitely want to continue diving into some of these industries we're seeing adopting self-service, but even discuss some of these industries that never thought they could, but maybe should start offering this. And I'm thinking of our current client base here that maybe offers this or recently started offering this. And what I know with our client base, we have a range of industries: pet stores, grocery, fashion retail, retail in airports, nonprofit. And I know I'm missing some, but let's just take some of those examples. Airport, maybe the simplest in my opinion. We've already seen self-service kiosks and navigation, digital advertising, baggage check, ticketing, and so forth. Maybe we can take grocery. Outside of self-service checkout terminals, could they incorporate these self-service kiosks elsewhere?
I can't see why not. Let's say if there is a bakery section in a grocery store, that could be a self-service kiosk for cake orders or prepaid orders for certain celebrations. There could be a kiosk in other departments as well, where the customer can enter in the details of the product he or she is looking for. For example, if we look at the deli area, the customer could browse a menu of fresh cut meats, find nutritional information, look at pictures, and maybe even find some recipes. Then the customer can select the cuts of meat, how he and she wants it sliced, how many pounds, kilograms, ounces, however it's sold. The manager of staff can then announce the order is ready for pickup through the store's PA or the loyalty app, like we discussed in a previous webinar, or even have the customer provide the phone number on the kiosk for a text when the order is ready for pickup.
Now that you say that, I'm actually thinking on my local grocery store, there is a kiosk over in the bakery area, and I never paid much attention to it. I'm always in such a quick in and out. I have a super sweet weakness. So I've never paid much attention to it until you just mentioned that now.
Right, I wouldn't be surprised. These services points can eliminate laborious requirements that can easily be automated. This will have the staff better utilizing other areas of the store where customer-facing interaction is a must.
Now, let me ask you, are there any industries where we could just get really creative in this, or I mean, maybe even industries that couldn't use it at all?
Good question, Kayla. I think you can get very creative in any industry, and basically any industry that has a point of sales transaction can utilize this self-service model in some capacity. It can not only help eliminate human interactions, but it can also maintain stable labor hours while offering more sell times. Like for example, some of our pet customers, they can utilize these kiosk stands for bookings like rooming, pet hotels, or training classes. But Kayla, just a second here, I thought just came to my mind about how we could enhance this experience for our retail customers in this industry and further evolve the self-service station. So let's take the treats. Now, I'm not an expert on treats, but I do know the brand Greenies. So our customers could reach out to the brand Greenies, the company behind it, and see if they wanted to collaborate with them or together with some developing a dispenser kiosk. I'm sure you have seen these dispensers for Coca-Cola. They have installed them in most cinemas. Now imagine that it could be branded by both companies. It could be installed in the stores, outside the stores, or in public places. You could have it integrated with your loyalty membership solution, where you could collect points. You will have the ability to redeem certain benefits at certain membership levels. Even we could take it a step further. You could receive, let's say, 3 trials of Greenies based on your membership status and provide a feedback back to our customers, which will then be collected and then fed to the coupon and our offering engine. All this data would obviously be visually displayed and reported in Power BI. I'm sorry, Kayla, I got a little sidetracked here, but my example might not be the best solution, but we need to think creatively here. And if I just can, Kayla, my last comment is we need to think of this from the customer's lens. What is the benefit to your customers? But also think about our staff and our overall business.
That's awesome, Thomas. Not sidetracked at all. Totally very creative. And now let me challenge you a little bit more here. What about real estate? Now they have sales transactions. How are they going to be creative here and utilize self-service models?
Very true. Actually, in our very first Tribe Talk, I mentioned the creative pivoting to survive and thrive in real estate. They are using robots and FaceTime-like devices and technology to navigate potential home buyers around in a home, but to bring it to more a self-service device. Let's say you're driving by a show home and see an open house just ended, but there is no agent to be found. When you walk up to the door, there's a stand that asks you if you want to select an appointment or reserve some time for the next open house. You could even gather some basic information on the potential buyer. It could be name, contact, of course, and some preferences. And then the open house could be done by the buyer itself or with a requested agent present. The solo-driven walkthrough could utilize other kiosks around the house to help identify areas the buyers like or dislike. The important thing here for this concept is this is a concept that can be used for any appointment-driven or any appointment-based retailer.
Okay, so I'm obviously not going to stump you. So is it fair to say that with all the technology options we have, like consumer mobile devices, the specific apps, these more common kiosks, then we have drive-throughs and walk-ups like vending machines, and add in some complementing components like AI and robotics, then there really is no industry that cannot provide a self-servant option, at least somewhere in their business.
I would agree, definitely. And we have come a long way, and the technology is getting better and more advanced, more responsive. We get better predictions from better data analyzation. But an important thing to mention here, there will always be a need for human interaction and in-store staff associates. And the experience is always the key driver to these new offerings, to these new technology.
Definitely true. You could provide a self-service kiosk, but if it's frustrating, there's errors and it's not responsive, whatever, I know I'm irritated and I just want to be done with the transaction. And just thinking on some various products I've used, like Redbox, for example, that was one of the hotter self-service trends before these streaming services really took a huge skyrocket. But I remember a few times at Redbox that actually led me to renewing my Netflix membership. And it was just repetitious bad experiences that, again, led me to purchase a competitor. And to me, these were very simple errors. The one closest to my house needed to be maintenance more often than you could use it. So when you'd arrive, there was usually a pop-up preventing you from using it at all. Very slim chances did you get to actually order a movie. And back at that time, Redbox was found on every street corner. So that didn't mean my experience was much different from location to location, though. So the Redbox ending story, I remember the day it did it for me. So I started out trying that error one. I know it was going to be a shot in the dark, but it's just the closest to me. So it's convenient and surprise, maintenance error. So I moved on to the next. And this touch screen or the responsiveness was just so misaligned. Every time I tried selecting something, it recognized a selection that was nowhere close to where I indicated. So not many attempts on this before I'm to that third time's a charm location. And this one was just so misplaced. At the time of day, the sun was shining directly on the machine. And I've seen little screen flaps on some of the boxes, but this one didn't have one. And the glare was so bad, I could barely even tell if it was on. I do remember being a little silly trying to figure out if I could block the sun, but I didn't have any luck. And as you can guess, I didn't get a movie that night. And next time we wanted to get a movie and thought about heading to Redbox, that's when I recalled this adventure and said, wait, did we let the Netflix subscription expire? And there was that renewal sign up.
Correct. And that is exactly, this is a good example that shows how important is some of those details. So like maintenance, updates, location positions are. But as we have mentioned with each of our tribe talks, the driver to these details is the experience. And we all know in Netflix has become a leader in customer experience and how to leverage AI. But the experience is always high on the list, if not the top of the pyramid. And much like contactless payment, you need to evaluate what is your current landscape, what areas of your business naturally form a waiting line, what devices do we have on stock in inventory, or what do I need to purchase? Is your software solution able to provide you with a self-service UI? We will dive into a few of these, but we always recommend guidance from your local support partner, technology partner, or feedback from your internal IT department.
I agree. Customer service or customer experience, we definitely covered probably a few times in every session. And the current landscape, I'd say we'd covered that with the areas we can get self-service creative in. But let's talk about the device side. What should retailers be considering or reviewing when thinking of self-service kiosks?
All right, so I would say there, Kayla, that really depends of your current POS solution. For example, LS Central has a completely modifiable POS interfaces. So meaning, if you have LS Central, you could simply just create a self-serve POS layout, also known as profiles. And with LS Central, the POS device could be a Windows device, like a computer, or as small as a handheld device, like a mobile phone or a tablet. If you are reusing a POS that was powered previously by a staff, you do not need to buy another device or any more software. You just need to create the new layout or the new profile. And Kayla, I would say it's my experience with our customers that they at least have one or two internal resources with this skill set. And we always advise that a good starting point is to take one of the out-of-the-box templates for self-serve that comes with LS Central and begin to modify and edit that.
Wow, that's truly great having that internal resource. Now, I can imagine though there's going to be some complicated integrations, maybe credit cards or contactless payments as an example. Are these an area of concern or something the retailer needs to focus on?
I wouldn't call it an area of concern. If your current POS solution already is integrated with a payment solution, I wouldn't identify or categorize that as a concern. The payment process here would be exactly the same as if a staff associated initiated the payment transaction. So no, for me, that will not be an area of concern.
Okay, sounds simple enough. I mean, if your current point of sale system has modifiable UIs and is integrated with credit card payments. But Thomas, what if we're on legacy systems still? This experience shift just has us beginning to shift into new advanced softwares and technologies, but we're not quite there yet. Can we still use self-service features within our legacy systems?
A very good question, Kayla. As I think it's fair to say, we have realized from this recent pandemic shift that the legacy technologies we are scooting along day by day with are not the solutions that are going to excel retailers into these new shopping behaviors or provide the ability to easily adapt to any new trends. So if you are beginning to invest in new advanced software or technology, I would tell you to connect with a technology expert or your support partner to help identify some of the key areas your business wants to focus on after implementation of new solutions. This will help you dictate which solution is the best fit based on your future requirements. And like I said before, not only on site with many of our customers, but also in these webinars, we cannot only think about right now or the next 3 months. We need to be thinking about years down the road. Where do you want to be with these features and functionality? And how does it fit into our strategy? The POS, regardless of what type of POS, like I mentioned before, mobile, staff-powered, self-service, or walk and go like the Amazon Go stores, the data should come from a head office system. With systems like LS Central, the entire solution extracts data from one centralized database. This elevates businesses to go beyond the in-store experience and will help with the entire unified experience from online to in-store to actually phone orders / call centers.
Okay, so to recap, if starting new, consult with a technology expert, or most likely you already have a support team, and they're going to help integrate that long-term vision into your enhancements. But that centralized system is the key here. I think many point of sale systems do offer easy to create point of sale layouts or profile modifications. So if you can create a new point of sale layout, you most likely can create one for self-serve. But the key is when and where that data is coming from. I see that making the difference in ability, connection, accuracy, and that overall experience. Now, let me ask you, this was a hot topic when we started self-service grocery kiosks, but is this going to eliminate human staff? You mentioned it was important to have human staff, but we briefly talked in other sessions on delivery robots. Now we have self-service point of sales in any industry. Is technology slowly replacing that human being staff?
It's a good question. I will have to tell you, Kayla, that I get this question a lot, even when I'm talking to customers, visiting them on site, or doing any presentations. The trend definitely seems that way, but it's important to know there will always be a need for human staff. And it could be such as the oversight of robotics in place, physical stock replacing, fresh food, fresh produce evaluation, repair and maintenance is just to mention some of them. But there's also areas where we have not incorporated robotics or technology. And I think we have quite some time to go. If we're talking about packing goods at the end of the transaction, for example, this is either done by yourself down in the grocery store or by a store associate. And humans will want human interaction at times. And if retailers need to provide to our needs, there will always be human staff requirements then. And in addition, the most common use cases for these self-service kiosks are navigation, informational, analytical, along with digital advertising. And of course, what we have focused on here today in this talk is order entry.
Well, then I'd say that's actually more along the lines of technology doing what it's supposed to be doing to enhance. And as we say with many of our topics, it's just the beginning of what technology will assist us with that was probably just years away. So as much as this pandemic has caused such chaos, it also has given us this accelerated technology and these advanced shopping behaviors that were just expected to come. many shifts we saw, like online ordering, delivery, these contactless payments and interactive kiosks, they actually all have been in retail for years, if not as long as people have been purchasing and exchanging goods. Just as an example, there have even been reports of coin-like operations that dispense holy water in temples back in the first century AD. So naturally, as our lives evolve, our patterns and behaviors are going to come along with that.
Hmm.
But as everyone says, don't be afraid of that change. Embrace it, and along with that, embrace technology, not only to assist in your efforts like with machinery, but also in identifying patterns, trends, plunges, or even just insight into daily transactions and activities that can be adjusted just slightly to produce better results. Now, let's
Yep.
take a quick check-in with Suzanne on any questions, or as always, we do want to hear your real-world experiences as much as we're sharing with you ours, so feel free to raise your hand and share your stories.
Oh, great stuff. Thank you both. I do have a couple of questions that came in. The first one is, do you think people prefer to touch screens versus having a human interaction during this pandemic?
Well, I do think it's such a individual personal preference. And from what I've seen, it's really a mix. The last few times I've gone to the grocery store, I have seen a heavier traffic in the self-checkout area than standard checkout lanes. But we mentioned retailers previously putting in place new cleanliness routines. And I can confirm that, at least at the grocery store I went to, I saw a staff associate cleaning the self-checkout devices before and after each use. But then I know there are also hardware manufacturers that are changing and evolving their business to meet trends and current demand. So we're seeing those special UV lights for germ sterilization for these touch screens as well. So I think, again, the preference is just going to be based on that individual.
Yeah, can I just add there? I think it's important what we're seeing around the retail and hospitality industries. These devices are here to stay. And Kayla, at the NIF, we saw plenty of these devices with this UV device cleaning. They had a cleaning mechanism. It would send down the light across the surface to clean it after each use. So I think that's important to note there as well.
Yeah, great strides in tech and new processes. Next question is, what about cost? How do I come up with a budget to incorporate interactive kiosks in my business?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Kayla. So this is a great question, and how do you answer that? So again, it will come back to what hardware do we have, what solution, POS solution do we have, what strategy do we have for these kiosks and terminals. So reach out to us if there's anything you would like to know about these kiosks. I would like to help you establish this budget, and also doing an evaluation of what hardware and what solution you're currently using, and then we can come up with a timeline and a budget.
Thanks, Thomas. Last question, so feel free to enter yours if you have any more. What kind of time frame should I allow for incorporating kiosks in my stores?
Do you want to take that, Kayla? Should I take it?
I think it's real similar to your cost breakdown. It's going to depend on not only what department an area you're trying to cover, but your current landscape and all of those details you mentioned a minute ago.
Yeah, I think that's right. It depends what your strategy, what your features and functionality you would like to utilize these for. But I also want to say, we shouldn't be scared of all these big ideas that we mentioned earlier. We can start small. If one kiosk we didn't even talk about is, and I know some of our customer is a price tag kiosk. So we can actually start very small and actually build on top of these features as we see a need for it, see the requirement, and see the business grow. So don't get scared that this is a big overtaking. It doesn't have to be.
Excellent. Well, that's all of our questions for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this edition of Tribe Talks Retail. Thank you, Kayla. Thank you, Thomas. We'll see you all again here next time. Look for our invite for our next edition coming up on July 16th. You can find that on our social channels or simply email info@archerpoint.com, Kayla or Thomas directly, and we'll get that information to you. Thanks again. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.